Canadians don't want an election. The country doesn't need an election. The thing that all parties should be focusing on is the Canadian economy. The number one issue we have today in Canada and have had for the past couple of years, without a shadow of a doubt, is the economy. But as I constantly remind Canadians, there isn't really a Canadian economy anymore. It is a global economy. The thing that all parties should be focusing on is the Canadian economy. But as I constantly remind Canadians, there isn't really a Canadian economy anymore. All parties should be focusing on is the Canadian economy. The Canadian economy, so to speak. Canada and Mexico are as one. What we have now seen is leaders come together and establish a framework for global governance, not a world government, but sensible governance. If these measures are enacted and we continue to move forward with the G20 process, we will have the kind of global governance that is necessary to ensure the stability and transparency of markets. And to the extent we now have a truly globalized economy, we need some semblance of global governance. That's what the G20 is. So if the G20 doesn't work, something else will have to fill that gap. So I believe ultimately everyone around the table will make it work.
Would it be a fair description that you see the G20 essentially as a steering committee for the global economy?
Yeah, I think that's
determining global economic issues.
I think that's what it is, Perrin. I don't think, we're not talking about world government. I don't think anybody's going to come in and say we're prepared to surrender our sovereignty to the G20 or some other body. I know some people don't like it. It's a loss of national sovereignty, but it is a simple reality. It is a simple reality. That we are in a global economy. I don't think anybody's going to come in and say we're prepared to surrender our sovereignty. I know some people don't like it. It's a loss of national sovereignty. He understands that, and I think everybody understands that Canada's a sovereign country, and whether it's dealing with the United States or dealing with China, the fact that a country's a lot bigger doesn't stop us from standing up for our interests and values.
Okay, we'll continue with Howard Markson, A-News.
Give you more detail in the backgrounder on this. In terms of your question, I travel all around the country all the time, meeting people and making announcements.
The Prime Minister's office has decided that the words, "the Government of Canada," should be replaced on all federal communications. They must now refer to the Harper government. How's that going over?
Then there's the case of civil servants being ordered to change the wording on announcements from the Government of Canada to the Harper government. Building up the Prime Minister's personal image is hardly new. Every government does.
Sin duda,
no doubt that insofar integration of the Americas, we are lagging behind. And the best way to illustrate this is to compare what has happened in America with what happened in Europe. Last century, the Europeans had 2 world wars that with a toll of more than 70 million casualties. But at some point, they had the wisdom, the courage to abandon the rationale of line Maginot or Siegfried line and to embrace the Maastricht Treaty with the leadership and the vision of such renowned statesmen like Adenauer, De Gasperi, Houghton, Truman. They began to build what today we know of as European Union. And in America, we are much behind that. In America, 20 years ago, President Bush's father raised the idea of a free trade area from Alaska to Ireland, generating a lot of enthusiasm in the region, but it never came true, never materialized. And so the time is right now, because Latin America has been for too long the continent of hope or of the future.
who serves the nation is
Undersecretary of Defense Ashton Carter was in the hot seat this time, telling the Commission on Wartime Contracting in Iraq and Afghanistan that the Pentagon's so-called better buying campaign is saving the taxpayer money on contractors in the war zones. But with billions of dollars documented now, stolen, wasted, or defrauded by U.S. hired contractors, Carter was unable to guarantee that billions more will not disappear into the pockets of war profiteers.
We're constantly hot wiring, working around, and so forth. And that is not satisfactory. We need a better system.
An estimated $117 billion of the $700 billion war budget since 2002 has gone for contractor services. And of that, the Commission has found tens of billions unaccounted for. With nearly 250,000 people now employed as contractors in both countries, Commission Chairman Christopher Shays pointed to reports by the Special Inspector General indicating that private security contractors are conducting poorly conceived projects with very bad planning, and that there's little government oversight of some contractors, many of whom were hired under no-bid contracts.
We see poor planning and oversight by the U.S. government, as well as poor performance on the part of contractors. We see, frankly, criminal behavior and blatant corruption.
All Carter, the man in charge of all of it, could do was to promise better performance and stricter oversight. Here at the Washington Peace Center, they say that all the promises from the Pentagon about cutting down on fraud in Afghanistan from contractors is so much talk. They say that the facts tell a different story. The Peace Center, staffed by anti-war activists, says the U.S. taxpayer is being scammed by unscrupulous contractors and the Pentagon bureaucracy.
They are overcharging us, that they're losing money left and right, and the money that's actually going into something that's getting built is often not needed and often not finished. All this money could be directed into actually repairing a lot of the damage that we've done in Iraq and Afghanistan.
At the hearing, Carter told the Commission that Pentagon Chief Gates has now ordered the process to be opened up so competition drives down contractor prices and reduces the cost of the ever-growing amount of money that the U.S. is spending in Afghanistan for military support services. Commission members listened closely. Most, however, were unconvinced. Mike Kellerman, Press TV.
Hello everyone, welcome to Global Government News, not Global Governance News, which implies that you actually have a say, but you don't. It's a scientific dictatorship. So today is Tuesday, March 29th, 2011, and I'm Darko. Please visit my website, www.ggnonline.com. That's ggnonline.com. You have 1 day left for a poll that I've posted, and it's basically, do you support military operations in Libya, along with all this other stuff? A majority says 88% say no, and the next minority or majority would be yes. But we're going to move down here, and I'm going to show you here. You can subscribe via FeedBurner that way, or you can follow me if you have a Blogger account over here to the right, or if you have a Facebook account, you can follow my little Facebook page right there by following there. Okay, we're going to move on here because I have a lot of news to cover. U.S. stocks gain as confidence falls. U.S. stocks edge higher today after consumer confidence fell less than some analysts had feared. Then we have UK economy shrink less than estimated in fourth quarter, and they won't ever say that it's actually gotten better. They'll just say it wasn't as bad as they thought, which again implies that it's getting better. Britain's economy shrank by slightly less in the final quarter of the 2010 than previous estimates had shown, as services and factory output numbers were both revised higher. Then we have European stocks advance as rally in mining shares offsets decline by banks, and then China shares open lower on Tuesday. The Nikkei down 0.6% as new crisis rolls on. Then Treasuries decline after Bullard says Fed should review quantitative easing too. Treasuries fell, pushing 10-year yields to the highest in more than 2 weeks on speculation the Fed may end its debt purchase program early as the world's biggest economy shows signs of a sustained recovery. Then it says here, Fed president says economy still needs support from bond purchase program. So it says here, two Federal Reserve regional bank presidents voiced support for the completion of the central bank's $600 billion Treasury securities purchase program through June, saying it's too soon to remove stimulus from the economy or to remove the inflation of your dollar. Fed's Bullard boosts buck. Says here the dollar advance buttressed by remarks from a Fed official that led to a speculation the central bank is laying the groundwork to normalize monetary policy. And moving on here to China, China's yuan weaker against U.S. dollar on Tuesday. And look at this is pretty big news here. Cross-border yuan trade settlement may expand nationwide. China is making more aggressive steps to make its currency more international. The Securities Daily reported on Tuesday that a wider use of the yuan in foreign trade is being planned and could be announced as soon as April. And then we have price control, still priority of monetary policy, and that just makes my hair on my arms stand up because, you know, if you like a free market, it doesn't sound too good, right? And then moving on to commodities here, they're still escalating. Brent crude is trading at $115 a barrel. It was up 30 cents. And gasoline futures down $7.50. And heating oil up $1.21. Natural gas down 18 cents. And moving down here to agricultural commodities, you have corn. Corn was up 75 cents, coffee down, and cocoa down big time. Wheat was up about $12 to $20. Moving down here to soy, because that's a big product, it was up $13. And finishing up here with precious metals, we have copper. Copper up 20 cents at $35, sorry, and then gold is trading at $1,419 an ounce and it was down $1.90. Then we have silver. Silver is trading at $37, still pretty high, but it was down almost 3 cents. Okay, we're going to move on to this Bloomberg article, and it's titled U.S. Consumer Confidence Falls to a 3-Month Low, and we already kind of covered that, but it says confidence among U.S. consumers dropped more than forecasted in March as fuel costs surged to the highest level in more than 2 years. Oil prices climb as Libya uncertainty persists. Then oil price in China surpasses U.S., reaches world medium level. OPEC weekly oil price rebounds to new high. And then look at this, gas ship rates seen rising 67% as Japan replaces nuclear freight markets. And I actually talked about this, about how Japan was basically in a really weird location, geographical location, where they really do need those nuclear plants. I mean, I'm not for nuclear energy, but if you know about Japan, they don't have big nuclear or natural gas reserves, and they don't have oil reserves. So they have to import all that stuff. So now it says the cost of shipping liquefied natural gas may advance 67% to a 5-year high as Japan replaces its crippled nuclear industry with power plant burning fossil fuels. So there you go. Consumer morale ebbs. Of course, I'm all for like solar panels, wind, hydroelectric, but of course, a lot of that relies on like nuclear government subsidies, and we don't have a free market at all. So you know, there's just so much money that's being thrown and bribed, basically paying off politicians for that technology not really to come forward by the oil companies. Consumer morale ebbs, home prices near 2009 lows, power bills to raise without tax, Garnett says. He said that with the carbon tax passed in Australia, prices would still be rising. So basically saying that the CO2 tax isn't going to bother them at all or increase their prices, cost of goods, or anything like that, which is a complete lie, I think. Milk wars, Coles pushing up petrol prices to pay for cheap milk in Australia. Home prices in 20 U.S. cities declined 3.1% from a year earlier. Then no one cries for Argentina embracing 25% inflation as Fernandez leads Bloom. South Korean central bank cautious about rising core inflation. It says here, cost of Libya intervention, $600 million for the first week, Pentagon says. It says here, and most of that's going to what? Private contractors probably, right? PA nears takeover of Pittsburgh pension funds. Pennsylvania's Municipal Retirement Agency has warned Pittsburgh to prepare for a state takeover of the city's troubled pension funds, the Pittsburgh Tribune Review reports. And then we move on to this. The days of gold-plated public sector pensions are numbered, and public sector employees, the workforce elite led by state and municipal workers, are now storming legislative chambers to preserve their special status. And moving on here to raising Medicare. It says here, raising Medicare age to 67 would shift costs to states and younger Americans. This is from the AP. It says employers and even some younger people would pay more for health insurance if lawmakers raise the eligibility age for Medicare. It says here, Senator Harry Reid misleads on Social Security financing. It says Harry Reid on Monday disputed warnings that Social Security is heading for bankruptcy, calling those assertions an outright lie. He says a huge federal entitlement program has not added one penny to the federal deficit. After Michigan just signed a financial martial law bill. It's literally called that, where they can take out public officials, elected officials. Now Michigan governor signs cut in unemployment benefits. Then Ohio House panel clears union bill. And it says here, the Legislative Committee on Ohio approved a measure today that would limit collective bargaining rights for 350,000 public workers and delivered a blow to unions and how they can collect certain fees. Please join me in part 2. This is GGN, and I'm Darko. Thank you.